talking about market opportunities, okay? And that's essentially what we're going to talk about today. And market opportunities are super important today because what we're seeing a lot of the times right now is we're seeing a ton of people discussing the doom and gloom of today's rates, the doom and gloom of today's marketplace, and all of the above. So one of the things that we're coaching on quite aggressively right now is that we're coaching on. Sorry, I'm just going to actually get rid of them because they're actually being terrible. I'll get them sitting somewhere else. Anyway, so what we're talking about is the different opportunities that you really want to look at in today's marketplace. Okay, and feel free to put your own comments down if you agree, disagree that there's opportunities. I'm really okay with that. But I think a lot of the conversation is coming around right now about rates and about conversations around why this isn't a good market. And just remember, the number one reason why is because the media really focuses in on today. They're not focusing on long term. So I'm going to run through the 4 biggest opportunities in today's marketplace, okay? Because that's what you're here for. Let's get this over with and let's give you what you came here for. So the first opportunity is if I'm a first-time home buyer. If I'm a first-time home buyer in today's market, there's a couple things. First of all, you want to be able to articulate this to your clients. And again, remember, what we talk to our clients about is what they're going to give us back. Okay, so if we're positive and outgoing about the marketplace, you're going to get that in return. But also, just so you know, I truly do believe that this is a huge market for opportunities. So if I'm a first-time home buyer, what are the opportunities in this marketplace? Well, first thing is for 3 years, you have not been able to put conditional offers in. So now you get to put conditional offers in. As rates go up, your down payments actually go down. So that's another thing. In most marketplaces, you're going to get the ability to actually find more listing inventory. So for the first time in a long time, you don't have to go out, look at one home and like freak out and make a decision right away. The other thing is that you saw a snapshot of where the market's going to be going. So if I'm a first-time home buyer, that is like foreshadowing into the future. So with all those criteria, is this not the best time to get into the market if you're a first-time home buyer? I honestly don't think the window is going to be open much longer. I think that by next summer, that's it. You know what? First-time home buyers in cities like Barrie, Ontario, my city, other cities, those cities really have, like, they're driven by first-time home buyers. So if you're not if your message isn't in those prospective cities, if your city, in a lot of cities, the GTA not so much, that's the core actually of Toronto, not so much, but all the other areas, first-time home buyers drive your marketplace. So if all you're doing is you're leaning in and you're talking about doom and freaking gloom, you're not going to see the results that you want to see. Okay. And so what I'm talking about with first-time home buyers, get out there and start talking about the creative financing, the opportunities, the funding for first-time home buyers, the fact that you can take your time, the fact that there's more inventory is on the uprise, the fact that you can actually negotiate, you can put conditional offers in, your down payments can be less now. To me, that's a way, way, way better strategy, and I think it's the perfect market for first-time home buyer. So I would be very encouraging behind that, and my messaging would be very much about first-time home buyers, like, get into this market. A year from now, like, you can't cry for 3 years and say it wasn't a market for you, and now the window's open, and if you're going to watch that window open, it's going to close at some point. Okay, we've seen what the future looks like. Okay, remember what COVID's 3 years were is COVID was 3 years of 10 years from now's pricing. So you got a window to see where the pricing is going to go. So get into the market if you're a first-time home buyer. Now, if I'm a downsizer, actually, if I'm an upsizer, let's talk about that because that's an easy one. If I'm an upsizer, where's the opportunity for me there? Well, if I'm an upsizer, it's quite simple, is that, you know what, you see where the market's going to go. If you buy low, sell high, that's kind of the whole premise, right? So if I'm buying in a lower market, okay, I'm upsizing, so I'm going to get a bigger discount on what I'm purchasing, but equally, in a year to 2 years, when rates start to go down a little bit, which of the two houses is going to get me more equity buildup? Is it going to be the bigger house, which more square footage, more desirable, higher price point, or is it going to be the lower one? It's going to be the more larger house, so you're upsizing. So to me, that's kind of what, that's the strategy. If you're ever going to upsize, you should upsize in this market because, again, you're going to get some great opportunities to buy great properties, but you're also going to see in the future, right? And I'm sure a lot of you will agree with that. I personally think that hot markets, like hot pockets, will always be hot. But right now, if you're getting a glimpse of things, upsizing and seeing a property that's going to grow more in value would be smarter to get it when it's a little bit lower in pricing. So to me, as an upsizer, this market's phenomenal. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, if it's good for upsizers, it's bad for downsizers. It's not bad for downsizers, guys. What is the number one thing that downsizers are sitting on right now? They're on a race to capitalize on the equity that they have in their pockets. What a lot of people, baby boomers especially, know about this market is they know that their equity is not theirs until they sell it. Okay, so if your house went up about 40% in value, I think Barrie, Ontario was 43, Ottawa was 36%, a lot of pockets, Hamilton was 39%. You saw so many jumps in value and they're adjusted, but people are still sitting on obscene amounts of equity. So if you're selling a bigger property and getting into a smaller one and you're downsizing, you have two choices, right? You're either going to wait, because again, we saw the snapshot of the last 10 years, you can cry over what it was worth, but you're sitting on equity. And if you have an opportunity to sell that equity, take as much of it as you can. It's like going to a casino and beating the house. You are still sitting on a significant amount of equity. You're still sitting on lots of natural growth. The rates haven't taken it all away from you. So realistically, you have to ask yourself, if the government is trying to make your home prices more affordable, and you sell today the bigger property, go into a smaller one, you are leveraging that equity. And that is a very smart move, because again, buy low, sell high can still apply, because it's a very different market right now. So the opportunities are for everybody. So if I'm taking a higher priced property and I'm bringing it down, I would encourage the sellers of bigger properties, and I'd say, guys, you're sitting on a massive amount of equity still. You know, you can be as greedy as you want to be with that equity, but the whole concept is selling as high as you can. And right now, if the market is trying to take away that equity, you know, you have a choice. You can either wait for another cycle to appear, which again could take at least about 5 years maybe. You know, you're going to wait for that. That's the typical real estate cycle, is about 5 years, except for weird global pandemics, in which case that was a cycle that lasted almost 3. So still, it was a cycle, but you can take that equity and leverage it. And that's, to me, that's the benefit of real estate and using it as a smart investment, is to say, okay, how much equity do I have? I really don't care much about predicting what that future is going to look like, because that requires, you know, a crystal ball that we don't have. But I can tell you that if you're sitting on a lot of equity today and your house value is high, you know what? Sell it, get that, and leverage it into a smaller place, and you'll be fine. You'll still get a natural growth, again, with the smaller property, but taking advantage of that equity and using it, it's only yours. As I would say to the sellers, that equity is only yours if you get an offer and sell it. You do nothing with that equity, you're not going to get anything with it. And then the final segment of the marketplace is going to be investors. A lot of people are going, this isn't a good market for investors. I'm an investor. This is an amazing market for investors. What are you talking about? Rental, how am I going to present that to an investor? Rental inflation is it's surpassing housing inflation. So rental inflation, as we talked about months ago, I warned you guys, I said rental inflation is going to surpass housing inflation. So as if you look at the housing starts, if you look at the documents, I've sent it out to a bunch of people. I posted it just on my LinkedIn. I posted it yesterday. So if you go to my LinkedIn account, you can see I posted the housing starts. We're down over 23% housing starts. I mean, that tells you that there's a housing crisis that isn't getting solved. So until that housing crisis gets solved, rental inflation is going to surpass housing inflation for sure, because a lot more people will get into rentals. So as an investor, I have a chance. I'm also finding a ton of people have decided during COVID, and now on the other side, they're like, I'm done. I'm finished. If they, you know, so many people are getting rid of their investment properties. It's fantastic. Some of them are a little high right now, or they're not cash flowing, in which case you have to let them figure out how they're going to get their tenants out, what they're going to do. I stay out of all that mess, but there are amazing opportunities in tons of pockets right now for great investment opportunities. And again, we haven't had that chance in a while, because for the last 3 years, we've had to buy places that didn't cash flow. I can find places that cash flow now. I can absolutely find places that cash flow because of rental inflation. So that is huge. And I can put conditional offers in, which as an investor, I wasn't able to do before. And I can load up some conditions that are going to protect me as an investor as well. So there are many, many, many different things that are positive about investors. So if you look at the marketplace, there's only really one marketplace that maybe, and that would be kind of lifestyle purchases. So lifestyle purchases is really the only market that I'm finding a hard time. If you're selling a lifestyle purchase, if you're buying a lifestyle purchase that's like waterfront property, cottage and stuff like that, there's some great opportunities out there for sure. So as a purchaser, but as a seller, you know, the opportunity might be is that if you really, you know, if it's time to let that go, or you made a poor decision with your lifestyle property, it's still not your principal residence. So maybe the opportunity is to get rid of it and reduce your financial burden. And there are some great opportunities out there, or talk to somebody about Airbnb-ing it or VRBOing it and that kind of thing. And, you know, really look at the opportunity that exists there. But for the 4 key fundamentals, that's first-time homebuyers, move up, move downs, and investors. Those are the key points that you want to start positioning yourself and letting letting people know that the opportunity exists. The biggest mistake that I'm seeing today is how many people are out there promoting the fact that it's not a great market, or they're talking about interest rates and they're making it sound like everything is very difficult. And I'm not saying it's a great market for everybody, but that's a personal expenditure issue when it comes to real estate and from an actual real estate investment or future forecast. Whether you're in Canadian or American markets right now, there are huge opportunities for all segments of buyers, sellers, investors, and obviously first-time home buyers as well. So to me, I see huge opportunities. Be careful on your messaging, guys. You know what? A lot of people are programmed to see this as a bad market. So even just the slightest hint to say things like, oh, well, a lot of people are losing their house, so they have to fire sale. That's not good, because it's also not true. Okay, this is a time where people who treat their houses like an actual investment, which they are, you've got to make an investment decision. So sometimes that means liquidating, sometimes that means upsizing, downsizing, lateral moves, whatever the case is. But the point is that try to stay away from saying that, blanketing and thinking that everybody's in pain and that's why they're going to sell and that's why, and the rates are terrible, so you're going to see, this and that. I don't reinforce negativity. I reinforce the fact that there's opportunities. Everybody deserves to buy a house. Everybody deserves to see the positive of getting into the marketplace. And hopefully this helped give you some tips on that. Okay, enjoy, and we'll stay tuned later and go check out the LinkedIn for that article on housing starts. Bye, guys.